What's up, folks? It is Friday, February 4th, TGIF. What's going on? So, hey, listen, couple things. New record highs in the markets. I told you that was coming. Deficit now at $870 billion. That is, that is unbelievable. That is phenomenal. You know, you might read something about that in the media and they're going to say, oh, the deficit. But remember what the deficit is. It is a net transfer from the government to the non-government. So when the government runs a deficit of $870 billion, that is an increase of $870 billion in the non-government's financial balances, right? The swimming pool drains out of the government side of the pool, fills up the non-government side of the pool. And that's up, by the way, that's up like over $500 billion from where we were at this time last year. Amazing, that is huge. You know what I want to talk about? Don't try to be a hero. Actually, I was gonna title this video, Don't Be Stupid. And by that I mean, don't sell good assets. You know, if you try to scalp good assets, you're really being a fool. You should not sell good assets, particularly when we are in an environment like we are now, where you're seeing unprecedented levels of fiscal support. That is just stupid. Don't try to be a hero. Don't sell an asset and then, yeah, you see it come down a little bit from where you sold it, and now what? You're patting yourself on the back like you're some kind of hero? That is just dumb. That is ridiculous. There's a time to sell assets when conditions and policy suggest or indicate that you should do that, but now is not the time. And no big money is made by scalp. Look, I spent years on 4 different trading floors at 4 exchanges, you know, being a scalper like that. I never really made any big money. I made like a salary for myself. And I knew a lot of guys on the floor who did a lot worse than that. And they were down there. And that was the floor. That was an environment where you could do that and you were supposed to do that. But it's very, very hard. And all the guys I knew on the floor, all the big traders who made the big money, they positioned themselves and they held. And, you know, they would just work around that position. When it came, if they were long the market, every time you had a dip, you know, on a daily basis, they were buyers all the way down, and vice versa. You know, if the market was in a period where it was bearish, we're talking commodities. So, you know, commodities have these periods, have these cycles. Could be overproduction, could be something weather related, whatever. If these guys were short, they were sellers. I knew this one guy, you might know the brand. If you eat pasta, you might know the brand Barilla. Barilla pasta. I knew Mr. Barilla when I was living in Switzerland. Some of you don't know, but I lived in Switzerland for 10 years in Geneva. And I knew Mr. Barilla, old man, very charming, old Italian man, lived in a beautiful mansion there in Geneva. And he was, you know, out of business. He was retired. But he liked to play around in the grain markets, and he knew the grain markets very, very well because that was his business. He was a pasta maker when he had his company Barilla. So he was very savvy about grain market cycles and prices. You know, Barilla company would have to buy huge quantities of wheat, obviously, to make their pasta. And every year when the price of wheat ran up, he would sell. And he would just tell me, Mike, I just do this every year and I sell because I know the harvest comes and it brings prices down. And he would just sell and he would sit with that. And you know, he was just like a very humble guy, and he would make millions just kind of dabbling on the side. He was already a very, very wealthy guy. He had a great life in retirement. He would make millions. He'd have one trade. He'd wait for the price to go up before the harvest, and then he would sell into that, and he would just sit with that futures position. And every single year, because, you know, it's pretty predictable. You get the harvest, you get a lot of grain that comes to market, the prices come back down, and he would make millions of dollars. He wasn't in there scalping in and out. And I used to talk to him about trading, because that was the day, those were the days when I was still a floor trader. And actually, I managed some money for him for a while. And I was doing this in and out stuff. And then he would tell me, you know, and I was a young guy, and I think he was trying to impress upon me, you know, kind of like, Mike, what you're doing is not that smart. And he was a really nice guy. He let me manage some of his money. But I think by telling me that story, he was trying to transmit a message to me that, Mike, what you're doing is really not that smart. What I do is I wait for the price of wheat to go up. And he did it with soybeans too. He did it with soybeans and corn and wheat. He loved this. And he wasn't sitting there looking at his screen all day long. The price went up. Right before the harvest, he would get short, and then he would just wait. And you know, it would take months. It wouldn't happen overnight. But grain prices came down, and every year, just as kind of a little, you know, like a hobby of his, he was doing this, making millions. And again, he didn't need the money. The guy was very, very wealthy. So be like Mr. Barilla. Don't pat yourself on the back because you got out of gold at 1950. And I said to Biden at 1950. I'm long gold for $1,043. Don't be a hero. Understand the macro situation. Be like Mr. Barilla. And you're going to have a very big account. Anyway, folks, this is all part of mental game. This is all part of understanding, you know, I've been in this activity for a long time. I've learned a lot. I've taught a lot of people. Come on board. Go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial of MMT Trade. Remember, if you have MMT, it makes it that much easier because you could take advantage of things that people don't understand. Like they're going to be talking about the deficit now, and they're going to want to be shorting the market. And I keep telling you here, freebies, I keep telling you, this amount of fiscal, and by the way, both the Senate and the House moved ahead on the Biden plan of 1.9 trillion. They're not going bipartisan, which shocked me actually. They're going to do reconciliation, which will not require GOP support. Have a great weekend, everybody. And remember, be like Mr. Barilla.